Okay, what is going on YouTube? Welcome to another episode of FPL Family. My name is Lee, this is Sam. If you're new around here, if you are new to Fantasy Premier League, maybe it's your first ever season in FPL, who knows? We've been playing it for something like 10 years? 11 years?
Something like that, yeah.
Maybe even more, guys, maybe even more. But if you're brand new to FPL, welcome. You have found a channel which I'm hoping will give you lots of hints and guidance and tips throughout the season. And if none of that comes to fruition, you can expect a few laughs and a bit of entertainment. You're absolutely right. Welcome to our third video from this year, So this is going to be talking a little bit about our drafts so far. We've had, 2 weeks, maybe 2.5-ish weeks. So we did a video a little while back. And the first thing we need to say, guys, is a massive thank you to everybody that watched that video, because we have had something like 11,000 views, and I think our previous most popular video before that had something like 6 or 7. So to get to 11,000 was absolutely sensational. If you haven't checked it out, there is no need to check it out, because we are now 2 weeks down the line and we'll be talking in this video about our drafts as is. That last video was about our initial raw thoughts, wasn't it? It was the game's just out, here's our raw thoughts, whereas this video is all about our latest drafts. 2.5 weeks on, we've had time to digest. How are you feeling about it? Tell me about your draft so far.
It needs a lot of work still.
It still needs a lot. You've still got 5 weeks. I wouldn't worry about it.
Yeah, I made a couple of changes. I've just been. I don't know. I feel like I made my first one and then.
You look flustered. I feel like there's still a bit of flusterness coming across.
There's a massive amount. There's a massive amount of Sam faffing going. Honestly, there is. It's because there are certain players that I feel this attachment to, that I want to get in there somehow. And all right. It's like a big jigsaw puzzle.
Well, I tell you what, let's start with yours. There's our Twitter on the left-hand side. For you guys that aren't yet following us on Twitter, maybe you've just stumbled across this video on YouTube, go head out over to @FPLFamily over on Twitter, where you'll find me. And if you go to @FPLFamily on Instagram, you'll find Sam over on there. And I tweeted earlier, Sam, about our new Insta reactions feature that we're going to be doing this season for the first time. Genuinely not much idea how that's going to go, but if you want to check out our raw, on the final whistle, quick 30-second FPL hot take from any game that we watch live, either on the TV or indeed at the stadium, because you're planning to go a few times to Spurs this year, I would hope and think. Then head over to @FPLFamily over on Instagram. Go follow Sam over there, and you'll get those every time we watch a live game. So let's get on with it. Let's have a look at your draft then.
I've had a massive amount of followers today. That must be why.
That's what I was promoting it.
Yeah.
That's because I was promoting it. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
I've not done anything today. I've been at the farm. Like, what's going on? That's why.
So go on then, talk us through. The guys I put on the screen for the guys, your first draft, I presume this is draft number...
No, it is actually...
14, 15, 16?
I think it's actually 2.
2?
But yeah, I think so, because I did what I always do, which is that it went live at the time where I had the children around, so I started to fill it, then realised this was ridiculous and I just couldn't, so auto-filled the rest. And then... So I had that for a little while, and then I've sort of tinkered, and I've ended up with this, which is sort of where we are at the moment. This is with 1.5 million in the bank, so obviously won't be staying. What
sort of an FPL pre-season draft has 1.5 in the bank? What sort of manager are you?
The sort that needed to get Salah in once he went out the African Cup of Nations yesterday.
Okay,
so
very good. Yeah.
Got rid of a couple of players to enable that to happen, and so there's still money there to tinker with the rest of them. It's just working out where that money goes. And
so talk us through that back line to start with then, because 3 very, very popular picks there in Digne, Laporte and Robertson.
Yeah.
Talk me through the Ake pick. Is that a pick that you are going to stick with if he goes to Man City, or do you still like him even if he's at Bournemouth? Because at time of recording, Ake hasn't moved yet, still at Bournemouth.
Still at Bournemouth, yeah. I don't know, I kind of quite like Ake as a player, and I don't know. I just was looking for somebody that was in that sort of cheaper price bracket, but that wasn't really uber cheap, because I kind of like the idea that at 5 million there are so many ways you can go. So it's sort of pick one that sits in that 5 million position that may change, and he's one that still may yet change over the course of the season. I actually starting to really like the idea of Wan-Bissaka again now he's gone to United.
Are you really?
Yeah.
Okay. What do you like about him? Over Luke Shaw, who's the same price in that United backline?
Yeah. Wan-Bissaka over Luke Shaw.
Okay, interesting.
I'm starting to really like the look of him, and I'm really tempted Because you know, if you think back to last season, I had some quite good success rates when I had Lindelof for parts of the season, and I'm starting to. I like the way Wan-Bissaka
trust in that
plays.
Manchester United defence? Are you trusting those guys now? Is Ollie going to get them all watertight?
Do you know, I actually don't buy into that Man United will be bad this season. I don't subscribe to that at all.
Okay.
I think the movements in the transfer window, the things that they're doing, that one of the major problems United had last year was their back line and holding a tight ship. And I think with Wan-Bissaka in there, that will massively strengthen that back four in front of De Gea, who now looks like he's probably going to stay as well. So I don't really buy into this whole like United are going to be as bad. I don't think they can be, and I think with Ollie having then a whole season in charge, I think it will be better. So,
do you think there's a bit of not to labour too much on Manchester United, but do you think that there's a bit of a risk that they're a bit exposed, that back four? They're probably going to lose Pogba.
Yeah.
They've lost Ander Herrera to PSG already.
Yeah.
Matic is kind of ageing, isn't he? So who have they got left? I think, if anything, it looks like Ollie's going to put quite a lot of trust into McTominay, potentially. Fred has got to, at some stage, come to the fore, given how much money they paid for him. Neither of those two really fill me with a lot of confidence that United's back four are going to be protected, and therefore I'm out in terms of United defence, which we'll come to a bit later on. But you fancy them? You fancy them?
Yeah, I do. And I think for me, that Ake position is going to be one of those that it's wait and see what happens with pre-season, who's looking like they're having a good pre-season as a unit, not necessarily as an individual player, because I think at 5 million you're not necessarily going to get the best player in a defensive unit, but what you can do is watch how the teams are playing pre-season and buy into a defence that's looking solid. And that's what I'm looking to do.
Well, we spent plenty of time there talking about a defender that you don't have in your team, because I don't have one for Saka right now.
Yeah, no, I don't.
But Robertson, Laporte and Digne,
they'll be there.
I think they pick themselves, don't they? Is there any thoughts in your head about dropping Laporte or Digne down to Coleman, or maybe even Zinchenko, or
No.
I don't know, anybody else that might? You're going big at the back. You're going premium.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, because
It's a popular tactic.
I looked at. Oh, and I should have looked this up before we've gone on. I was looking at the statistics behind, where the top 10k, where the top 500, where the top 1,000, how they played the game last year. Because obviously I was very much in that top 10 hunt for a long time last season, and I think partly that when you look at the percentages of people that were in that and the formations that they played, it was often 3-4-3. Which was a formation that I actually didn't play very much at all last season. I didn't tend to play 3 up top. I tended to kind of go 4-4-2. So this year I'm sort of thinking, well, what I think the strategy that I'll play with my defence is to go for 3 big, solid guys who are going to play week in, week out, come what may, regardless of fixtures. 1 medium player, at the moment that's the Ake position, and then a cheapie in Kelly because Wan-Bissaka's left. That's obviously depending upon what we see if he's going to play, because I don't want a repeat of what we had last season, which was when we all got on the wrong player and he didn't play. So
well,
that's
listen, can't argue with the big 3 at the back there. Absolutely, and Ake. Let's see who he ends up being, if not Ake. Yeah. In the middle there, Salah and De Bruyne, nice picks. I think Salah is going to be a very popular pick. Let's not talk too much about him, I don't think. Especially now that he's going to be coming back from the African Cup of Nations. We saw over the last couple of days that actually Egypt lost out to South Africa. Not expected, as an unexpected result. I think Egypt were expected to go long in that tournament in the African Cup of Nations.
Works for us as FPL managers though, so let's not moan.
Absolutely, and as a Liverpool perspective, from an FPL perspective, Salah will be back. I fully expect him to play in game week 1 now, and I fully expect him to be captained by a lot of FPL managers. But talk me through, is that Gray in the middle there? And Declan Rice? I mean, these are really out there picks. What's going on?
Well, so Gray I don't think will be there now. I think what we've seen over the course of the last few days with the Foxes is a massive spend up of kind of resources coming in with Perez. Looks like Tielemans is going to stay.
So talk me through Perez then. So 6'5" in the game, brought in from Newcastle. You've got $1.5 million in the bank. How do you feel about doing Gray to Perez?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I'm not sure. I actually, to be quite honest, I'm really put off of Leicester at the moment on the basis that they've just signed they're starting to sign loads of players, and that always worries me with a team because you just don't know who's going to play, how they're going to set up, where they're going to set up in terms of the positioning on the pitch. And so it worries me a little bit with Leicester. So I think Leicester's going to become one of those wait and see teams. Plus they don't have hugely great fixtures, as we talked about in the last video. So I think he'll just disappear. At 5.5 with some money in the bank, I've got the potential to go up to people like Zaha, who I was looking at, who I think will be a better option, really.
Well, I must admit, I couldn't agree with you less on Leicester. I think they are absolutely ones to look for at the beginning of the season, guys. I think Rodgers is going to want to hit the ground running. I think they've bought with intent this summer. Some of the players they've bought in look really, really good. The fixtures, I think you're right, they do look pretty tricky, but Wolves at home, given that Wolves are going to have European exploits, you've got Leicester then going away to Chelsea, which... who knows what sort of Chelsea we're going to get, right? But it is going to be Frank Lampard's first game at Stamford Bridge. That is going to be tough. Then away to Sheffield United, home to Bournemouth, and then away at Manchester United. Now, who knows what sort of Man United we're going to get at the beginning of the season as well. And we know the likes of Vardy likes to play against the bigger sides, right? Because the bigger sides push, they attack. Vardy gets that space in behind. So for me, I will be going in, and I'll share my draft in a second, with at least one Leicester attacker, at least.
But don't you worry about... there's quite a lot in that midfield now in terms of who might start. There's Harvey Barnes, there's Tielemans, there's Maddison. There's so many of them now that are kind of competing for places in that team.
But I don't think there's too much conjecture about who's going to start up front. And I think to that end, Jamie Vardy is going to be a really good pick.
All right.
Well, in the place where I've got Vardy, and I'll share my draft in a little while, you've got Kane, you've got Billy Sharp. Talk to me about your front line very briefly.
So at the moment I'm going one big, two little. But again, those one big, two little could become one big, one medium, one little.
Okay.
Kane's not going anywhere. I just that man I love. And I trust him to start the season well, and at that price tag, I think...
As we've said in previous videos, when has Kane ever been 11 million?
Never.
I mean, it's just too tempting, isn't it? Spurs at home to Villa on the opening day, which looks sensational. Away at City is clearly difficult, but cast your minds back to the Champions League quarter-final when you went to City and Son scored something like 3 in it. Well, yeah, true, yes, Kane didn't play. Okay, don't forget that altogether. But Son scored an absolute hatful, didn't he?
Yes,
and Spurs ran
yeah.
riot. I'm not saying the game's going to be the same as that, right? But you could get goals in that game. Then Spurs at home to Newcastle, away at Arsenal, and then home to Palace. Those home games in particular look great for Spurs, and at 11 million, Kane looks a good pick. No doubt.
He does like to score in the North London derby. The only game that I would...
Just not in August.
He'll score in August. The only game that I'm not confident he'll score in is the City game. All the others, I think there's goals for Harry Kane in, so he's going to be in my team. The other two, I really like Billy Sharp.
Lots of goals last year in the Championship, right? Top
really
scorer.
Like him. I really like him as a player. I've watched quite a bit about him actually over the last few weeks because I felt like I needed to pick a new Jimenez because Jimenez just felt a bit too expensive.
Billy Sharp is the new Jimenez.
Well, I won't necessarily go that far, but I felt like I needed to pick somebody who would enable me to not spend 7.5 million on Jimenez, who's got European football and a tricky start to the season, that would allow me to spend 6 and hopefully bring in the same sort of goals.
All right.
So yeah, Billy Sharp, and then I've gone Calvert-Lewin on the basis that again this is a kind of a bit of a wait and see one really, because we need to see pre-season for sure if Calvert-Lewin's going to play, but the Everton fixtures are perfect.
They look very good. They do look very good.
So there needs to be somebody from Everton. Now, if Calvert-Lewin doesn't look like he's going to play pre-season, then I've got to look to fill an Everton player elsewhere because I've only got Dino at the moment and I'd want an outfield too, an attacker.
I think at least one Everton looks good, and I think they're even linked today at time of recording, guys. What day are we on today? The 6th or something like that?
Something like that.
It's the 6th of July, and Everton linked with Diego Costa today. I don't know if you saw that. Linked with Diego Costa. Absolutely the sort of player they need. I mean, he would ruffle a few feathers, as we saw at Chelsea, but he is the sort of player that would make the chances and the crosses that are being created by Digne actually hit the target. Digne and Coleman on the other side, so creative last year, but Everton never had that guy that was going to stick it in the back of the net with regularity in the way that Costa might. So if I was an Everton fan, I'd be excited about that, genuinely.
I think there's a couple that I would like to have in there at the moment that aren't. Sigurdsson is certainly one of them from Everton. I'd really like to find a way to get him in, but I don't know if budget is going to allow me to do that.
Well, Billy Sharp coming up from the Championship. Sheffield United's main man, he's the talisman, there's no doubt about it. Only, at time of recording, in 2.4% of teams, and only, he says, only 6 million in budget. So
it can be a jammy pick.
There we
go.
Could absolutely be a jammy pick. Let's head over to my draft. So here is my team as it stands. I'm going to switch windows now so that I can see a bit better the window. So there are some similarities between your draft and mine, there's no doubt about it, but some subtle differences as well. I've gone for, and I still have a lot of thinking to do about what I'm going to do with my goalkeepers.
No, we're not allowed to talk about goalkeepers, remember?
That's true. On the last video, we spent a long time talking about goalkeepers, which is pretty boring. It was pretty boring, but Ryan and Button...
Everyone loves goalie talk.
I find goalkeepers difficult this year. If you're going to go with a 6 million set and forget, I totally understand that. And Ederson and Alisson absolutely up there as proper set and forgets. The 4.5 rotating goalkeepers, which is a strategy that I've employed almost every season that I've played FPL,
it's tough.
Is very hard this year.
Is
very
really
hard. Unless you're going to go Ryan and Heaton. And I genuinely don't know whether the fixture rotation between those two is any good or not, frankly. But there are not many 4.5 options, I think, is what this ramble is getting towards.
Yeah,
and all those goalkeepers in that 5.0 and 5.5 bracket, I'm kind of like, meh.
I'm glad, actually. I'm
Why?
glad that you have realised this, because this is what I was talking about last time, and you were like, boring, let's move on. This is what I was talking about last time. The goalkeeper is such a tough position, and you end up having to spend more of your budget there than you want to.
Yes, I think you're right. Well, I agree with you. For a change, I agree with you. There we go.
Mark the date.
Write that down. Ryan and Button in right now, but guys, that could change. Trent Alexander-Arnold, as I've said over and over again, I say it on Twitter, I even said it at the back end of last season, first on my team sheet, going absolutely nowhere. Yes, of course, I understand the threat of rotation with Gomez and everything else. I understand all of that. But when it comes to value and points per game, Trent has just got it all. Assists, corners, takes the free kicks. Absolutely sensational. I've gone with Digne with 6 million as well, same as you.
I kind of think you have to.
I think so, particularly if they sign a big striker. If they get somebody like a Diego Costa in, Digne's...
I can't believe that you're going to get Diego Costa.
Is he not the sort of player they need? I think he'd be perfect for Everton.
Does anyone need that stropping around? Nobody needs
he is
that.
stroppy. There's no doubt he's stroppy. But Digne created so many chances last season for have somebody up there that's going to put them away. That's not Cenk Tosun. I think
Calvert-Lewin.
Yeah, still a bit unproven, I think. Still a bit unproven.
I agree.
So Digne at 6 looks good. I'm not averse, by the way, to saving 0.5 million having Coleman on the other side. If you look at some of the statistics between the two, particularly in the second half of last season, in that period of time when Everton really ended the season on a high last year, didn't they? Coleman stacks up just as nicely as Digne, except in the chances created category, if you like. So Coleman not quite creating as many chances, but in terms of key passes and crosses in the box and all that sort of stuff, seems to match Digne. So again, it depends what Everton do in the transfer market as to who I pick there, but not averse to dropping Digne down to Coleman right now. Charlie Taylor from Burnley, 4.5. He's I'm not expecting to play him every week, I don't think, but given that my strategy is to have a 4.5 midfielder, then actually Charlie Taylor might get a bit more game time than I would normally expect from my 4.5 defenders, frankly. But we saw that he got forward a lot. We saw that he was very attacking for Burnley, and we saw that Burnley ended the season nicely last season with Sean Dyche. So I'm expecting big things from Burnley now that they had a bit of a false start last year with the Europa League. I think they'll do better this year. I think they'll do better. And Charlie Taylor and players like Dwight McNeil, they've got some very exciting youngsters in Burnley. So expecting big things from Burnley this year. Zinchenko at 5.5. This is simply because
I can't afford Laporte.
Well, without a lot of rejigging, I think you're right, but I don't think that right now Laporte is worth a full million over Zinchenko. It depends who they buy, right? Mendy looks completely out of favour at left back.
He's gone, isn't he? Surely, I can't see it.
Look, he's still a Man City player right now. They've just brought in Angelino, who is another left back who they had a buyback clause on. Mm-hmm. He's come into the game at 5 million. Now, if he gets a regular slot, then clearly the switch from Zinchenko to Angelino is quite easy.
Well, so the one from Laporte, right? Saved me a lot of money.
Of course, it would be from Laporte as well. But I just think Zinchenko seems to be favoured right now. I noticed that when City were doing the new promotion for their kit, they did a promotional video on social media, and I think they featured 2 or 3 players in that video, one of which was Sergio Aguero, another one was Zinchenko, and there was another one as well. So that just shows that City clearly are putting Zinchenko in there as, if he's on the promotional videos for the new kit, he's going to be part of the team, isn't he? They've given him a new number and everything. So come on, get on the Zinchenko chain. I'm up for, if he becomes the regular left back for Man City, I think he's going to be a very big FPL favourite.
Won't get as good assist as Laporte does though. Laporte is able to assist beautifully.
I've just about got Laporte's assist to company out of my head from last year. Thank you, Sam. It's just about gone. You've brought it back. You've brought it back.
Did you ever think about Kyle Walker in all of this?
No, I don't trust the Spurs defence. I really want to see what the impact of Ndombele and Sissoko is.
Kyle Walker at City. He's at City now. Did you not ever think about...
Oh, sorry, it was Kyle Walker-Peters, I think you were suggesting. Okay, Kyle Walker.
Because what's interesting is that all the teams that I've seen and been sent, it's been Zinchenko or Laporte. I've hardly seen any drafts with Kyle Walker in it.
That's true. Could be a nice differential if you want him.
That's what I was just thinking. Like, actually, Kyle Walker could be a nice differential pick.
Okay, could be then. You heard it here first, folks. What is he, 6 million in the game?
I think so, yeah.
6 million?
He's a bit cheaper than Laporte.
So let's move on to midfield. I think Sterling and Salah more or less pick themselves, actually. I'm pretty happy to have those two. And like you, I'm open to the idea of moving Sterling down to KDB.
Oh, I'm not.
Do I think that, KDB can match Sterling? No, I don't.
No, I don't either.
I think Sterling will have another great season for City. He's going to be another big player. Lots of goals, lots of assists, bonus points, etc., for Sterling. I think he will be worth his 12 million. I think he'd be worth it. However, come August the 9th, come game week 1, will Sterling be there, or will I need that 1.5 somewhere else?
And that's my problem.
Could well need it.
That is my problem, and I know I already regret it. That's the problem.
Well, at the minute, it's on your bench. 1.5's in your bank.
Well, I know, but in order to go... It's more than that, though, isn't it? It's 2.5.
Oh, he's 9.5, isn't it? 2.5. You're absolutely right. It's a massive saving going KDB. And I must admit, and I said this on a recent Ohana podcast, so for you guys that are our patrons, head over and check out my Ohana ramblings over the last couple of days. I stuck a pod on there where I was talking about my latest draft in a bit more detail. And actually, one of the key decisions I've got to make right now is between Sterling and Vardy or KDB and Kane. That is a real conundrum for me right now, and it sounds like you're on the KDB and Kane train mainly because of Harry,
of course.
And I'm on the Vardy and Sterling train mainly because of my neutrality, I guess, between the teams, right? But I do fancy Vardy, as I said before in our Leicester chat there, I do fancy Vardy. Instead of Kane, I've gone Lucas Moura in midfield. I think without Son there, I think Moura is going to be a nice pick, at least for 2 or 3 games. That gives me an opportunity to see how Spurs settle down.
Okay.
Fixtures a bit up and down, a lot of new players coming in. Ndombele going to absolutely change fundamentally, I think, the way that Spurs play. I think he's going to be a real important cog in that midfield, and he's going to change the way Spurs play. So because of that, I want in on Spurs for Villa at home and a few other fixtures, but I'm not sure I want to go all in right now. So Lucas Moura feels like I'm dipping my toe in Spurs, see how it goes, and then if Kane starts exploding, then I better think about what my strategy looks like. Sigurdsson comes in at 8. I'm happy to have him. A bit of a template pick, but it's either between him and Richarlison. I think Siggy, given that he's on penalties, finished in the FPL Team of the Year last year. I'm happy to have him. Dendoncker comes in at 4-5 as my bench filler. Moved to Wolves, I think, in the last few days at time of recording. So a couple of goals last year, plays games. What more do you want from a 4.5, right? So he's going to stay in there. And then my front line, a very template pick with Josh King. A lot of conjecture on Twitter about whether Wilson is worth the extra money over King. In my opinion, not right now. In my opinion, King worth saving the 1.5 to have King on penalties, etc., etc. And I've been bigging up Vardy a lot on this video, and I do think that Leicester are going to go all guns blazing this year. I think they've some real statements of intent in the market. I think Vardy is going to benefit from all of that creativity behind him, and Jose Perez being a bit of a foil at number 10 as well. And then Mason Greenwood is stuck in there as, again, a bit of a filler, but you never know. If Ollie's going to start promoting the youth, looks like Lukaku's going to go, maybe he needs more options up front, maybe Mason Greenwood gets a few minutes. Who knows? Who knows? Maybe he does.
You just said you didn't trust Man United when I was talking about picking Wan-Bissaka.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And on that bombshell, guys, we will leave you. Thank you very much for tuning in to this video. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that like button. We'd love it to get up to 10 or 11,000 views. Would be absolutely sensational again. So hit like, share and subscribe. Follow us on Twitter at FPLFamily. Head over to Instagram at FPLFamily to talk to Sam. And we will see you very, very soon on the next video. Cheers.
Take care, guys.